This is the Quadriceps Focused Leg Press, a great way to target the quads in a more lengthened position. Before I get into the setup, just take note of the feet placement on the platform and also how much range of motion I'm getting. Going down nice and slow, at least a 4-second eccentric on that way down, and getting a real good bend in the knees, almost trying to bring those knees to the chest. First up is the backrest placement of the bench. I have it set all the way down, that way when I'm coming down, my chest isn't stopping my thighs from getting the full range of motion. Versus a glute focused leg press, where I'd have that bench set up a little bit higher to get a little more hip flexion and more stretch on the glutes. Also pay attention to that blue foam pad. I am using this because the leg press that I'm using doesn't allow me to get a good range of motion without having it stop on the little safety bars. If you often find yourself bouncing off the bottom safety bars, I'd highly recommend using a foam pad to push the hips more forward. That way you get more range of motion, more bend of the knee, and greater results for the quads. As you can see right here, I'm going way past a 90-degree bend in the knee. Again, I'd highly recommend putting a foam pad on that backrest. Most leg presses do not allow you to get the range of motion that I'm getting right here. Especially if you're a short individual, you're going to be hitting those safety bars a lot sooner than with someone with longer legs. If your gym doesn't have a foam pad like this, I'd highly recommend investing in one because you could also use it for your glute bridges or hip thrusters as well. Next up, let's talk about foot positioning on the platform. You're going to want to put those feet in the lower half of that platform, as you can see right here. Low enough to where those heels are coming slightly off of that platform, but still having the entire ball of the foot in contact with it. Versus a glute focused leg press where you'd put your feet towards the top half of the platform. Next, for the width of those feet, I like placing them about hip width apart, while also having those toes facing slightly outside. That way when I'm coming down and pushing those knees apart, those joints are stacked right on top of each other. Or you could separate your feet apart in the same width as you would do your barbell back squat. Basically, any width that allows you to get the full range of motion while keeping that butt glued to the bench. But first, I'd always recommend placing those feet, like I'm doing right here, right in line with those hips. After you unrack and before you start going down, make sure you're pulling yourself tight into the bench. This is going to help ensure that when you're coming down, the butt doesn't come up off that bench and your lower back doesn't round. If you still feel that lower back rounding and that butt coming off the bench when going down, it likely means that you're not letting those knees open apart as you're coming down, or you're maybe going down too fast, pushing that butt up off the bench. Regardless, it's still important to correct this first because if you're letting that butt come up off and the lower back to round, that means that you are putting stress on that lower back and can lead to injury. Now let's talk about that eccentric or the way down when those muscle fibers are lengthening. We're going to try to shoot for at least a 4-second, if not a 5-second eccentric. As you can see right here, I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 4, and up on 5. The slower, the more controlled you're going, the better you're going to be able to push those knees open apart, keep that lower back and butt on the bench, and also not strain the inner thigh or the groin, as well as ensure that every single rep, you're getting the complete range of motion and a really good bend of the knees. If you're coming from a leg press variation where you have those feet a lot higher up, you're probably not going to be as strong or be able to load as much plates on this one, so decrease the weight by at least 1 plate on each side, establish the form. Trust me, it's going to feel just as hard and your legs are going to be burning. Also take note that I'm slightly pushing that chest up to have a good arch in the back, and that way I'm in proper hip alignment to open up those knees. Also on the way down, make sure that you're inhaling into the stomach. This is going to increase intra-abdominal pressure, allowing you to brace a lot better. Also, a good inhale on the eccentric can help control the tempo on that way down to make sure you're getting a 45-second eccentric. On that way up, simultaneously squeeze those abs and push the feet through the platform. It's super important that you are bracing and squeezing through the midsection, through the abs, and not getting too much tension in the chest or the head. If you strain the neck, head, and chest too much, you might get a headache and potentially feel a little bit nauseated. Again, on that way up, imagine like you're pushing those feet through the platform, pushing as hard as you can on every rep. Through the way up, squeeze those abs, keep the breath in that midsection, in those abs. At the very top, make sure you're getting a good exhale. At the very top, you want to make sure you're getting the full extension of those legs, so you want to have those legs completely straight, but don't lock out and push those knees down. I know that's it for the way down. Imagine like you're still pushing those feet away from your body, just letting that weight carry you down. Also on the way up, pay attention to the knees. I'm keeping them apart. If you experience those knees caving in towards the center, I'd recommend putting a low resistance elastic band on the legs right above the knee to help engage those abductors and pushing those knees apart. For these, shoot anywhere between 8 to 15 reps depending on your goals. Try not to pause too long at the top. For example, I like to shoot for 75% of my reps to be at the same tempo. For example, if I'm getting 12, trying to get at least 9 back-to-back with not too long of a pause. Lastly, just to recap, make sure that you're having those feet towards the bottom of that platform, going down for at least 4 to 5 seconds, and potentially putting a little foam pad to push the hips more forward and getting more range of motion, getting a little bit more emphasis on the quads. Let's grow those legs, and you know what to do. Like and subscribe, please.